So aside from something like catastrophic, like an injury to one of the Bills' best players, God forbid, there were really only two outcomes that could have happened from the Bills game on Sunday against Tennessee. Option A is a complete disaster, where they just lose. They lose at home to the Mason Rudolph-led Titans. We are pointing fingers at each other, at players, at coaches. We're discussing their futures, just completely derailing the season. That is an option. It could have happened. And maybe for one half of football, you thought that was on the table. That type of loss did happen last year. It was the home game loss to Denver, where we're talking about the offensive coordinator's future. It ended up costing him his job. Ken Dorsey was fired after that game. But, Sean McDermott took some flack for the way that game ended, especially on special teams. It actually almost happened against the Giants as well, if you remember. The Bills were 1 yard away from losing to the Giants at home in prime time. But the rest of the way last year, the Bills won just about the rest of their games. I believe the only regular season loss was at Philadelphia, which was another game where we were talking about Sean McDermott's strategy and his future. Like, those are the types of things that come up when you lose with Josh Allen. Anyway, option B is just, yay, guys, we did it. We beat the Titans. And for one half of football, you might have thought option A was on the table. Certainly through one quarter of football, you're thinking it's on the table because the Bills went 3 and out on their first 3 drives of the game. They didn't get a first down till the second quarter. Meanwhile, the Titans, on 2 of their 3 first drives, are scoring points. They go up 10-0. And in that moment, I mean, me personally, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I'd still rather be the Bills here. I think they're going to figure this out. They have the best player on the field. They're at home. I think they're going to get this going. And the Titans really are pretty non-threatening. I know that they've, went 21 plays over 2 drives and put 10 points on the board and used like almost 12 minutes of clock. But they were really just like throwing to the tight ends and stuff. In that moment, I still felt like 17 points was going to win the game. Because the Titans were just like, hey, we'll throw it to the open guy if you leave this guy open. But we're just going to take the tight ends and the running backs. Like 14 of Mason Rudolph's 25 completions went to tight ends and running backs. Like we're just going to take the easy throw, the check down. And if we get out of here with a win, great. But we're going to try to win with 17 points. But if you get there first, you'll probably beat us. And that's what happened. In the second half, the Bills switch went on. They had 5 drives. They scored on all 5 of them. 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. And the Titans did exactly what I basically just said. I know I have the benefit of hindsight there as well, but like I said, even in the moment watching these drives, it's like, oh, they're checking it down to Vanette. They're checking it down to like Josh Wiley or whatever his name is, and Chiga Conquo. Tony Pollard had a couple catches. I don't even remember when all these things happened, but it was just like little throws to the flat and stuff. Oh, 4 yards, 6 yards. Ooh, we got 10 yards this time, like 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. A penalty aided, on Taron Johnson, contact to the head. Of Tony Pollard aided that touchdown drive. And, the fans in the stadium hated it at the time, but that's the kind of play they're really just trying to get out of the game. Pollard is very clearly going down, and Johnson kind of dove at his head. I understand why it was called. Obviously, I wish it wasn't at the time because the Bills were struggling to move the ball on offense. I didn't want to allow any more points, of course. I didn't want to go down 2 scores to Tennessee. But it ended up not mattering. Like I said, the Bills flipped a switch in the second half. And if they could just play like that throughout the course of a game, I realize you're going to have a punt here or there. You're going to have a drive that stalls out. But, like, when you go 5 of your first 6 drives barely going anywhere, like 5 of their first 6 drives, they didn't even get a first down, I don't think. Like, that is, in the first half, that is just all too frustrating. And then leave it up to the Titans to go for it on 4th down on their own side of the field on the first drive of the second half and not get it. I mean, the game wasn't over at that point, of course. For all you momentum people, that's probably where you would say that there was the turning point in momentum. But, like, for the 11 billionth week in a row, don't get me started on momentum. Anyway, I don't really know what else to say about the Titans game. We talked about the frustrations with the offense in the first half. I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to rehash. The total yards in the first half were like, the Titans had 200 and some odd, and the Bills had like 90. And then it like totally flipped in the second half. And because the Bills are just a better offense, led by a better quarterback, they were able to finish drives, score points, and put the game away. Josh ended up with 323 passing yards. He didn't do anything with his legs. He had 1 rushing yard on the day. 323 passing, not a whole lot rushing overall, not just from Josh, but Ray Davis finished off a drive nicely. I guess that would be my frustration. The Ray Davis touchdown was unnecessary as well. Like, it could have finished 27-10. He could have went down after they got the first down. They could have kneeled it out, but the Titans just handed it off 3 times and everybody went home anyway. But James Cook, not sure entirely how healthy he was. He didn't catch any passes, just 12 carries for 32 yards. He had 1 nice touchdown run, but other than that, not a lot happening. And again, that was my main frustration, I think, with the offense, was the early first down runs, a lot of them slow developing runs out of the shotgun. And it's just like, can we just line up under center and turn around and hand the ball off if you're going to do that? Or maybe throw a swing pass or something like that. Like, that was very frustrating because it just felt like they were beating the dead horse with the first down runs. And it was setting them up in second and long and third and long. And, that used to be such like a convertible thing for the Bills. And it's not that it's, not that I doubt them now, but it used to just feel almost automatic. It was like 3rd and 10. I don't care. We're obviously going to get this. We have Josh Allen, and we have Stephon Diggs, and Cole Beasley, and John Brown. Like, we're going to get this. And a lot of times they did. And that is just not as guaranteed as much anymore. Still, obviously, we have to talk about the passing game as well. I talked about how Josh had 323 yards, 125 of them to Keon Coleman. That was very encouraging, and I think he had... I admit I didn't watch it back. That was a touchdown to me. Was there a bobble? Maybe somebody in the comments can explain to me why that wasn't a touchdown. It just looked in the stadium like, oh, he's got it. Is there like a switch from arm to arm? I thought it was a touchdown. I kind of thought he should have had that. But still, an impressive day from Coleman. Ended up as the Rookie of the Week, the Pepsi Rookie of the Week. And I believe he finished the week with the most receiving yards of any player. So that was cool. 57 of those came, in the fourth quarter. But still a nice job from the rookie. All of his targets did I see all of his targets or all of, now I can't remember. All of his targets, I think, came with Cooper off the field. Obviously not the other way around. But Cooper had a nice debut in his own right. Of course, on the first drive, 3rd down, they try him on a little comeback and he drops it. And it's just like, of course. Like, he immediately has to show the one knock on his game. Just felt like, yep, that checks out. Yep, of course that happened to us. That's a bit cynical. But it did happen, and it was just kind of like the reaction in the moment. But the rest of the way, he catches 4 passes on 4 targets for 66 yards on a touchdown. All those catches were in the second half, and I did like pretty much all of them. He reached out for one that Josh threw wide of him and pulled it in. He had a touchdown up the seam where he's really the only player that's open on the play. He just beats the guy to the inside and catches the touchdown. That was actually his first catch. There was one where it was like a dig, like a 15-yard dig or something like that, maybe 12 or something. And the throw was actually kind of late. I thought Josh was late on the throw. I thought I saw him break open pretty early in the route, and I'm like, get it to him. But to Josh's credit, he has the arm strength where he can still fit that. And he got it to Cooper there as well. And there was one play up the sideline as well. Like, it was just like, yep, okay. We have a guy who can win in the intermediate, and that is just super helpful. And not that Khalil Shakir can't, but he's more of I just think he's more of just a slot player. We need an outside player that can win in the intermediate. And Shakir really wasn't doing much in the first half as well. Nobody was really doing much in the first half. But then they had that drive in like the 3rd or 4th quarter. I think it was the 4th quarter where they're like, all right, this is the Khalil Shakir drive. Let's try a couple things out. It was almost like the Bills were trying things out. They were up by so many points that they were like, let's try these things. And they were pretty much all plays to Khalil Shakir. I think they went to him like 4 or 5 plays in a row. And he finished with, 7 for 65. Dalton Kincaid, 3 for 52. Still would like to see him get involved, obviously, a little bit more. I think Bills fans pretty much, that's a universal thing. Like, let's get him the ball a little bit more. He had one really nice play along the sidelines where he kind of caught it turning, fell inbounds, nice play. And then another one on the right near the pylon, which led to the touchdown. It actually was reviewed, but ruled a catch. Yeah, like, let's get that guy the ball a little bit more. Maybe on plays like that. He doesn't have to have such a boring route tree. That's something I talked about earlier this season. Anyway, the good news. The Bills are 5-2. They are 2.5 games up on Miami in the division. Miami lost to Indy. They are getting Tua Tagovailoa back this week, but you do already have the road win over them, and you play them next week. So you have a chance to bury them. The Jets actually lost in Devontae Adams' debut to Pittsburgh in Russell Wilson's debut. So the Jets are 2-5. So you are essentially 3.5 games up on the Jets. So the Bills, as long as nothing terrible happens, should really coast to the division title. They should. I know that they have some tough games coming up on their schedule. At Seattle's no walk in the park. San Francisco's there. Kansas City's there. Those are both home games. And you got the Jets and the Dolphins again. Again, those are both home games. So that should help. You still have the Patriots twice. The Bills should win the AFC East. They're heavy favorites to do so. But let's talk about Seattle. So Seattle comes in off a really nice, impressive road win against Atlanta. They had lost 3 straight games prior to that. So it was something that they needed, for sure. They needed to get back in the win column because they started off the season pretty successfully. They were 3-0. They won against Denver. They won against New England and Miami. Miami, New England, these are not really hallmark wins. Denver ends up being pretty good, at least now. But that was Bo Nix's first start. The Seahawks were not very good on offense that day. They could not protect Geno Smith. They could not really protect Geno Smith for the first really 5 weeks of the season. It was an issue for them, and it wasn't really fully exposed until, I would say, like the Giants. Was it the Giants or the Lions game? The games they started losing. They lost at Detroit 42-29. They lost at home to the Giants 29-20. That was kind of based on a blocked field goal at the end of regulation. They could have tied it there and sent that game to overtime, but unable to do it. And that, I don't know, blocked field goals are sometimes kind of fluky, but they've had their ups and downs. They've had a roller coaster start to the season. Like I said, the 3-0 start, then the 3 straight losses. Then they go to Atlanta, who's coming off a really nice win. Were they coming off that win where Kirk threw for 500 in Atlanta at home against Tampa Bay? I'm not sure if that might have been the week before that. I can't remember now. But I don't know. I think that game really could have gone either way, and it was really just a no-doubter for Atlanta or for Seattle. The worst thing that happened to them in that game was DK Metcalf sustaining the knee injury. I think it's going to keep him out. He's a tough guy. He likes to play through injuries. He's got like a grade 1 MCL sprain or something like that, and they said he's week to week, not practicing early in the week, and he really needs to get a session in on Friday to really have a chance. But I think they're going to hold him out just to be cautious because that division is still wide open for them. They are 4-3 in first. Even if they lose, they're still guaranteed to be tied for first place, depending on what happens in the rest of the division this weekend. So they need DK Metcalf. I would anticipate they hold him out, especially because they have a full running game again. Kenneth Walker was on the injury report because of course he was. Kenneth Walker seems like he's always on the injury report, but he was finally healthy this past week, and now he's on the injury report with an illness, but I fully expect him to play. He has been really their missing piece because Geno Smith is leading the league in like pass completions, pass attempts, pass yards. However, he only has 8 touchdowns and 6 picks, so he's still prone to the mistake, but they're a bit different of a beast when Kenneth Walker's in there. He has just, he's only averaging about 60 yards a game for them, but he has 6 touchdowns rushing through 5 games. He's only played 5 games because he's missed 2. Averaging 4.7 yards per carry. Charbonnet not doing the same thing. He's under 4 yards a carry. I think that, Charbonnet was a nice prospect for them, and I think he fits their offense a bit differently than Walker does. It's just that simple. The biggest missing piece, obviously, I just alluded to, is Metcalf. So that leaves them with, Tyler Lockett, 32-year-old receiver, still capable of beating you, but certainly on the downside of his career as well. Jackson Smith and Jigba was one of the players I liked the most coming out in his draft year. I was really kind of hoping he would fall to the Bills, but the Seahawks snagged him a couple picks beforehand. And he's really been a slot player for them. It's kind of strange how he had like one huge game in week 2. But other than that, 37 catches for 319 yards. That's less than 9 yards per catch. So he's really just kind of, I don't want to say he's being ignored necessarily by Geno Smith, but he seems to have one role. And it's just like, we're going to hit you on these quick hitters in the, on the hash marks and stuff. You're not really going to get too many yards after the catch. And you're just going to be our 4 for 40 type of guy, throughout the game. And that's a weird role for him because I think he's a much better player than that. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that, but it just feels like they should have bigger plans for him. And maybe the fact that Metcalf and Lockett are still there is impacting that a little bit. I would expect to see an uptick for him if Metcalf is unable to play. I would expect to see an uptick in Noah Fant as well. I think he's been a fine tight end for them in a position that's been otherwise kind of dead. Fantasy footballers, we all know that position has been relatively dead throughout the year. So Noah Fant's been a fine player for them. And the Bills allow a lot of targets. I think they allow the second most targets to the tight end. So I could see an uptick for him as well if Metcalf isn't going to play. What I don't like in Seattle is their defense, really. And they might get a little boost this week if Rick Wallen is able to come back. But they've allowed really almost 400 yards of offense, 369 or more, over 400 twice, nearly 500 once to San Francisco. But over 400 yards, right around 400 yards the last 4 games. They're 2-2 in those games. Or they're 1-3 in those games because they lost Detroit, the Giants, and San Francisco before beating Atlanta. They forced 3 turnovers against Atlanta. That might have been the difference. They had a 5-game stretch in the middle where they forced 3 turnovers week 1, they forced 3 turnovers week 7, but from week 2 to 6, they forced 1 turnover in 5 games, and they allowed a lot of yards. They're allowing a lot of yards on the ground as well. 4 straight games, over 100 yards rushing allowed, 3 straight over 150. There's a 228 in there as well. That one was to San Francisco the week before. So this could be the game. I just, talked about how much I don't like the Bills running on first down, but you could get right with this. This could be a good game for James Cook, a good game for Ray Davis as well, because they seem to be getting him a little bit more involved. Where I'm a little bit nervous for the Bills is not necessarily, the injury report isn't long. It's long, but it looks like a lot of those guys are going to play, but a big piece might be missing, and that's Terrell Bernard. He's been excused from practice for personal reasons. The Bills continue to say that he's day-to-day, but if he misses the game and Bale Inspector has to go in, that's a tough matchup for him. Kenneth Walker is a tough matchup for him. If you're going to trust him to chase down Kenneth Walker, how many more ways can I say it? It's a tough matchup. I think he's pretty limited as a player. I only noticed him on one play against the Titans on Sunday, and it was like a completion to the sideline for a first down. And you're kind of wondering, I'm not sure why he's in the game, because the Bills typically don't play 3 linebackers, but they did on that look, and it bit them. So hopefully Terrell Bernard is okay to play. Is it the difference between winning and losing? Probably not, but it might be the difference between the Seahawks sustaining a long drive or not, or being able to move the chains with the ground game. I still like the Bills overall. I still feel pretty good about the Bills winning the game. I think this is something where if you're a championship contender, you can go to the West Coast and beat a team like Seattle. It just, the Bills feel like the better team, especially compared to the teams that Seattle has beaten. Not that the Bills have really beaten the doors off anybody good either. Don't get me wrong. I admit that. I could see it being close. I'm going to take the Bills, maybe with like a funky score. I'm going to take the Bills 29-23 over Seattle. Guys, hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. But Enjoy the game on Sunday. And as always, above all else, go Bills.